Comic Boom.
Hey guys, Comic Boom here to talk about Leviathan. That incredible, amazing character created by Brian Bendis for the DC Universe, who is supposed to be DC Universe's Magneto, right? Leviathan, you've heard of him. Event Leviathan, you remember that, right? No? That's alright. I kind of forgot about it too. Event Leviathan wasn't much of an event. And it's quite clear that Brian Bendis is still trying in vain to get us to think, come on guys, this is Leviathan, he's so cool, he's like a real cool bad guy. Let me give you a Leviathan Dawn to prove to you that this guy's really, really smart, really, really good, and he's really, really cool. Okay. Now, rather than me being my usual sarcastic jerk self, I'm going to try to give Bendis the benefit of the doubt, and I want to review in as good a spirit as I possibly can exactly what's been established so far with Leviathan. All right. Now I want to back up and I want to just cut right to the chase and let's review what we know about Leviathan since he's been introduced by Bendis in the pages of Action Comics, Superman, and through Event Leviathan, and then he's in Action Comics again with the Legion of Doom, and now he's in Leviathan Dawn. Now, what do we know about? Here's some of the issues with Leviathan. First issue is, and this is, I'm going to put this under the heading of why so far the story of Leviathan isn't really resonating with me. Why isn't Leviathan working? Why aren't more people talking about this new character called Leviathan? Well, I think it's quite simple. The first reason is that Leviathan, when he showed up, had no logical agenda. He didn't seem to have an agenda. He was a mysterious figure who talked really smart, in the Bendis speak, because, Bendis likes people talking in riddles and talking in Bendis speak, where, you can talk for 5 or 6 pages, and then when you get to the end of the 6th page, you realize, oh my God, I learned absolutely nothing about nothing. That is the Bendis speak that I'm talking about. That's what it is. And there's a lot of that, by the way, in Leviathan Dawn here. You go through pages and pages where you learn absolutely nothing of substance about any of the characters, leaving aside the fact that we don't even know who a lot of the characters even are, who are now in Leviathan's circle now that he owns a country. But I get ahead of myself. Let's back up a bit. What happened? Well, it's really simple. We got no logical agenda. Leviathan just shows up. And apparently all we know about Leviathan is, well, he wants to take over all the intelligence agencies. So, or rather, steal the assets from all the intelligence agencies. So, as near as I can tell, this is what the master plan of Leviathan was. And I'm piecing together all the clues, and I'm reading between the lines, and I even have to add in information I know from solicits because it's not clear in the dialogue. The ad nauseum dialogue that Bendis has used, it's not clear in the dialogue. But it seems to me that what Leviathan's master plan was is this guy named Mark Shaw. He used to work for Argus. And what he did, Mark Shaw came across a secret memo written by Sam Lane, Lois Lane's father, and Sam Lane was speculating in this memo about what he would do to right all the wrongs in the world. Now, what are all the wrongs in the world? I don't know. Leviathan has bitched, whined, and complained about all the wrongs in the world. He's alluded to, the heroes, that the heroes aren't being good enough. The heroes going about it all wrong. He made a reference in Action Comics about Lex Luthor being cracked. Lex Luthor is one of the reasons why the world is cracked. What does that even mean, cracked? He thinks Lex Luthor is one of the reasons why the world is cracked. He also complained that the intelligence agencies and all their assets and what the world was doing, how the world was going about solving its problems was all wrong. And apparently that's one of the reasons why Mark Shaw decided that he was going to utilize Sam Lane's theoretical plan that Sam Lane just wrote about what he would do. He would use that as part of his agenda. What's that agenda? We're not sure, but bear with me. So he reads Sam Lane. Leviathan reads Sam Lane's secret memo that he wrote when he was at Argus. And it was about how to take over all the assets of all the intelligence agencies on the planet. And that's really all we know. That's all we know. Now, once Leviathan does that, he implements, presumably, what Sam Lane wrote in his memo. And Leviathan then wants to make a massive move. So then he recruits all these intel workers, these intelligence officers, from all over the world, from all the different intelligence agencies all over the planet. And of course, we know they included Spiral, Task Force X, the DEA or the DEO, and presumably all this, the KGB, the CIA, the Shade, all these secret organizations in the DC universe, and everything else. He recruited all the intelligence agencies, and then once he recruited all those assets, all those spies, he then destroyed the infrastructure of those agencies in a bunch of massive explosions. And we're to believe that maybe Leviathan isn't quite as bad because he doesn't kill all these people. He doesn't really kill. Instead, he transports them away. One of the early things noticed about when Leviathan was destroying all these buildings, he was creating a lot of chaos so that nobody knew who Leviathan was. Was Leviathan Green Arrow? Was Leviathan Steve Trevor? Was Leviathan even Batman? Was Leviathan Kate Spencer, the Manhunter? No, I mean, this was part of the whole mystery. Meanwhile, he's destroying all the intelligence agencies' infrastructure, but stealing their primary assets, which include, of course, the spies themselves. He also presumably stole a lot of secrets. And his master plan, we are to believe from Event Leviathan, was to acquire all the intelligence agents, which he did, and then release all the secrets to the world that he acquired from the intelligence agencies, including not only all the secrets of the governments, but all the secret bank account information. Release it all, creating chaos. And apparently that was part of his master plan to really help the world. Now, how does that help the world? We don't know. That's never explained by Bendis. We still don't know. Presumably, that's going to be explained at some future point. But again, we can't rely on Bendis we can't rely upon any sort of timeline here because one's not even been established. He had 6 issues. Very little was established. Leviathan Dawn now establishes that apparently, even though he was defeated, Leviathan was defeated in his attempt to release all these secrets to the world. And he was defeated by Amanda Waller and Batgirl. Batgirl infiltrated Leviathan's organization because Leviathan invited her in. Batgirl defeated him by somehow all off panel. None of this took place in the comic books. So Batgirl defeats him. We don't really know how. She introduced some tech that destroyed his tech that was going to release the secret. Apparently, Leviathan never kept copies of whatever he wanted to release, or he never kept copy of the tech that he was using to release the secrets. Batgirl destroyed that with the help of Amanda Waller from Suicide Squad. Apparently, this character called Dr. Nets that we meet in Leviathan Dawn, this Dr. Nets character is the one that, again, all off-panel, gave Amanda Waller the tech, who gave it to Batgirl, that destroyed Leviathan's plans in Event Leviathan. Again, none of this was properly explained in Event Leviathan. So this is one of the reasons why Leviathan is not resonating with readership. The story is horribly told. It's a disjointed, absolute mess. It's a mess. And it doesn't help that Bendis doesn't have a handle on any of the voices of the various characters. This is an absolute mess. But again, I'm trying to piece this all together by looking it all back. So again, oversimplifying everything, this guy named Mark Shaw, he's a disgruntled spy with Argus. He leaves Argus then. He reads a memo written by Sam Lane. He likes Sam Lane's idea of recruiting all the intelligence assets from all over the planet. And then Leviathan somehow magically uses his great oratory skills, because this guy's yapping all the time. This is a perfect character for Bendis to write, because Leviathan just doesn't shut up. He's always talking in Bendis speak and yapping and talking. This guy would talk me to death. If Leviathan approached me, I would probably kill myself. I wouldn't want to be recruited by him. The last thing I want is to hear this guy talk more. Good grief. But yet somehow in the DC universe, the various intelligence assets around the world, they're awed and wowed by Leviathan, so they all voluntarily join him to destroy the infrastructure of the intelligence agencies on the planet. They work for Leviathan, and now they are working toward acquiring a country. What did they do? Well, their master plan of releasing all the secrets to the world, including all the bank accounts of everyone, releasing all that didn't work. And so now what they've done is they've taken all the money they had, because presumably before they were going to release all the secrets, Leviathan must have stolen a bunch of money, again, from governments all over the world, I suppose, from intelligence agencies all over the world, and he used it to buy a country. He bought the former country of Markovia. So this is great. So now Leviathan has bought Markovia. All right, and he's renamed it Leviathan. Now this is interesting. So his agenda now would appear that let's acquire all the intelligence assets from all the intelligence agencies of the world, then blow up the buildings of all the intelligence agencies, then release all the secrets we get to the world that we've acquired from the intelligence agencies, then let's take all the money that we've stolen and buy a country called Markovia, because it's for sale, it's cheap apparently, and by doing so, we will acquire United Nations status because Markovia is a member of the United Nations and Markovia has sovereignty. And when you have sovereignty, in order to be a country, in order to be a recognized nation and be part of the United Nations, you need to be a country, and that way you establish sovereignty. If you have sovereignty, other nations can't invade you because they'll respect your sovereignty. But your sovereignty has to be recognized by other nations. If your sovereignty is recognized by other nations, then it's much more unlikely that you will be invaded by another country because your sovereignty will be respected by the United Nations. That's sort of the rules of the United Nations. Again, not to to oversimplify things. To be a member of the United Nations, you have sovereignty. You're a country. You're recognized, and if you have sovereignty, it's far less likely that you're going to be invaded by another country. Now that's the plan. So that apparently is what Leviathan has done. Leviathan has become a terrorist. After Leviathan's plans were thwarted by Batgirl and Amanda Waller in Event Leviathan number 6, he then, for some reason, joins the Legion of Doom to attack Superman in Metropolis. So just in case he wasn't a terrorist at the end of Event Leviathan number 6, which of course he was, he's absolutely a terrorist because of the latest issue in Action Comics. So what does he do? Well, now he decides that he's going to become his own country. Now, Leviathan has repeatedly stated that it's not about him. This isn't about him. This is about, I guess saving the world, helping the world. We still don't really know what Leviathan thinks is wrong with the world that needs to be fixed. It doesn't make any sense. He doesn't like how the heroes are handling things. Well, what does that mean? He thinks Lex Luthor is one of the reasons why the world is cracked? Well, Lex Luthor's a bad guy, so yeah, the world is screwed up because we got bad guys. Leviathan, what's your agenda here? Anyways, I can guess that maybe Leviathan's agenda is he wants to be like Doctor Doom, which is kind of weird because Bendis keeps saying that he's kind of like Magneto, but he's not like Magneto. Magneto dealt with mutants. Doctor Doom of Latveria, he's looking a lot more like a Doctor Doom than he is looking like Magneto. Now there's some cool prospects here. If Leviathan wants to take over Markovia, there's some interesting questions here that this could go, interesting directions. For example, Markovia is in fact the home country of Brian and Tara. Tara was a member of the Teen Titans. She is a member of that famous storyline. She was part of that famous Teen Titans storyline, the Lazarus, was it the Lazarus agenda? What was it? In any event, she betrayed the Teen Titans. Tara is dead. And her brother Brian is a prince of Markovia, and he is Geoforce. So it's rather interesting that here we have Leviathan Dawn, and we don't have Geoforce anywhere. I wonder, does Brian Bendis even know that Geoforce is actually the prince of Markovia? All we get here is a notice that they bought Markovia, that Leviathan just out of the blue bought Markovia, and apparently a spokeswoman for Markovia said that it was bought in cash. It just seems to me that all the things that would make this an interesting storyline have been breezed over. I would really want to know what Geoforce would think about his home country, where he's a prince of. Suddenly, it's been sold. That's the story that I want to hear. I don't want this odd, ridiculous. This is being written like an espionage thriller. Here's the other problem is this an espionage thriller now? This used to be about intelligence agencies. Event Leviathan was about intelligence agencies being taken over. But now Leviathan wants to be a government. I criticized Event Leviathan before for being ridiculous and not making any sense because you can't separate intelligence agencies from government. And you also cannot incapacitate an intelligence agency by simply blowing up a building where the intelligence agency is in, because the intelligence agency is run by the government and it has multiple places that store their intelligence data. Now, this is just common sense. Now, but I'm not trying to... Anyways, there's so much wrong with this, but all of this nonsense to get to a point where, look, why couldn't you have just started off the story that just have this mysterious person who buys Markovia? And that was Leviathan. Why all this build up which makes him look like an idiot and a moron and someone who's not particularly bright and not particularly smart? There's a terrible cover here that says something that is demonstrably false. It says Leviathan Dawn. He's outplayed the heroes. Check and mate. No, he hasn't. He was defeated by Batgirl. He hasn't outplayed the heroes at all. You stole a bunch of money with tech that wasn't yours, and you bought a country, Markovia. That doesn't protect you. You're going to be invaded by other countries now. If you thought before you were going to go unnoticed because you were just dealing with intelligence agencies, which in and of itself didn't make any sense, you're certainly going to get noticed by governments now that you presume to be one. You think if you're a nut job and you suddenly go by Iran, you think you're suddenly going to be protected from the rest of the world? What is Bendis getting at here? This is nonsense. I don't understand how this is supposed to be such this great, powerful, crazy thing. Let's all sit back and go awe of Leviathan. Nonsense, crazy. I don't buy it for a second. Now, I've said before that we don't know exactly what Leviathan thinks needs fixing in the world. He's not clear. We don't really understand what his agenda is. If his agenda is to own a country and have a cult following, I guess he has that. There's some interesting speculation that can be made from Leviathan Dawn that maybe he has brainwashed all his followers. That seems to make the most sense because this guy he seems like a high school student with a very low level intellect and he doesn't really seem to get it. There's a scene here that I laughed out loud at where Dr. Netz is trying to tell everyone that they've been brainwashed, and then Leviathan makes the comment, brainwashed or kidnapped. Does anyone here feel kidnapped? Well, look, obviously none of them are bright either. They had to have been kidnapped or brainwashed because it's hard for me to imagine that many people could be collectively stupid. It's very hard for me to imagine. But then, you know what, we do live in very interesting times, right? I guess, you never know how people think. It's possible that every single intelligence operative, now bear in mind, this is why it almost has to be a brainwashing that Leviathan used to get all these intelligence people to come and work for him. It almost has to be brainwashing for the simple reason that think of what he accomplished. He managed to pull intelligence operatives and assets from all different intelligence agencies on the planet, from different governments, with different ideologies, with different patriotisms, with different ideas, with different beliefs. All of them decided to come to work for and to live on Leviathan Island, or whatever it is now, Leviathan. There had to have been a reason, but there's no way that all of them betrayed their countries. They quit their intelligence agencies. They sabotaged their intelligence agencies. Every single one of the intelligence assets that are now with Leviathan have committed treason with their own countries, are now wanted for, at a minimum, for extortion, murder, theft, crimes against humanity. The list can go on here if you just think about it. And it's hard for me to imagine that they would have done that on the basis of an essay written by Sam Lane while he was with Argus. I mean, come on. It just makes me shake my head. Now, understand that I'm putting this all together here, and it actually sounds crazy now that I'm talking about it like this. It actually sounds crazy enough that I am kind of curious to see where this is going to go. But I can't impress upon you how utterly boring this is to read. And where this fails in particular, and I don't know how to sugarcoat this, because I really like Alex Maleev, but he's the wrong artist for this. Alex Maleev is a good artist. He was a great artist on Daredevil, and there are some stories that are right in his wheelhouse to illustrate. This is not one of them. This is not one of them. If ever there was a story, if you're trying to create a Doctor Doom for the DC universe, or a Magneto-like character, however wherever Bendis is going with Leviathan, I don't know whether it ends up being Magneto-like or Doctor Doom-like, whatever. I admit that the DC Universe could probably benefit from another top-class villain. So having a Doctor Doom-like villain in the DC Universe is kind of a cool idea, or a Magneto-like character, it's kind of a cool idea. I don't mind that. But my God, you couldn't have picked the wrong type of artistic style to illustrate that. If ever you required an artist to really get home the superhero epic fighting style and the visceral action, it would have been in a story like this. The problem is that Bendis is choosing to focus on useless conversations between people. It's talking heads when there's no reason why it can't be more action here. Why are we having talking heads? For example, in Event Leviathan, why were we not privy to Batgirl and Amanda Waller working behind the scenes to defeat Leviathan? That's the story. Not the useless dialogue where Damian was having dialogue conversations with Green Arrow, Batman, driving in a Jeep, and they're talking nonsense that doesn't move the story forward. Bendis has, I'm sorry, but he's really lost it as a writer. I don't understand what he's doing here. And he doesn't have any knowledge of the DC Universe. Dr. Netz, for example, who is one of the main characters here, who is revealed to be who betrays Leviathan, she's actually dead. She was actually killed off in the pages of Grayson. But Bendis has apparently resurrected her, or he doesn't know that she was killed. He doesn't even know that she was dead. Now I realize that right now in the DC Universe, all this stuff is maybe nonsense anyway, because we got everything with continuity in the DC Universe is all over the board, but it's just nuts. To make it even more frustrating, we have a Kingsley Jacobs in here who's going to be taking over Checkmate. He's a brand new character, and one gets a very strong sense that the only reason Kingsley Jacobs exists as a character as a brand new character is because Bendis doesn't have a clue about any of the existing characters, because he just doesn't take the time to listen to his editors or otherwise. I mean, and I think that's clear. Bear in mind, Didio was fired for a reason. And one of those reasons is, and this is fair to say, you got editors that have quit DC Comics in the last 3 months, followed by Didio being fired. He was fostering a poor work environment. My speculation is that you got an editor trying to stand up to Bendis, and Bendis said, "We'll have none of it," because Bendis doesn't like logic. Don't tell me I can't do this. I can do whatever I want. I'm Bendis. I got a big contract. Editor complains to Didio. Didio says, let Bendis do what he wants. And then we get garbage like this and low sales. And everybody wonders why. That's my guess. Now, of course, all this is it's a wonderful little smokescreen, because Bendis is a really nice guy on online social media. He's always posting and advertising about these books and everything else. And that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, you got to get to the quality, and this just doesn't stand up. And this just doesn't stand up at all. So as a story, this isn't working, and artistically, this isn't working as well. I've never seen Steve Trevor drawn so horribly in my life. Everyone in here is unattractive. This whole thing, it just is absolutely crazy. Not only that, with Checkmate returning now, it used to be that Checkmate was a cool organization. That, you had a king, you had the king, you had the queen, you had the bishop, you had the white knight, the black knight, and now you get now Bendis has decided to change the wording or the allocations for the Checkmate organization. Now it's the hunter, the colonel, the arrow, Lois Lane is the truth, the wild card is Talia, the king, then the question, the bones. Again, it's change for the sake of change. It's not organic. It's not good. And it's not working. But hey, look, does it have potential? Yes, it does have potential. Leviathan has potential as a villain under one condition. Fire Bendis, get a new writer on it, go back to formula, knock down Leviathan, take your time, take 3 or 4 years to develop Leviathan organically and not rush him to make this little high school bully, Mark Shaw, look tough. And spout nonsense and have all the real good action take place off panel, and then just tell us that he's accomplished so much. It's funny. I had to discover on the cover that did you know that Leviathan outplayed the heroes, Check and Mate? I didn't know that. Apparently it's on the cover. Does Bendis know that actually hasn't happened yet? He hasn't outplayed the heroes. All he's done is bought a country. Okay, now what? You're writing superheroes, Bendis. We need a little bit more excitement than that. That's not exciting. If you're destroying a country or this is the DC universe. We're used to crises. Give us something where a little bit more is at stake. Because Leviathan is a joke. He's a joke. That's what he is. He's a joke. And no wonder Talia al Ghul's pissed off that he took Leviathan. Because he's making Leviathan a joke. An absolute joke. But of course, Bendis will try to force the issue and say, well, Talia al Ghul now is so, she's upset with him, but he's impressed because why didn't I think of that? Talia al Ghul is actually upset because she's thinking, why didn't it occur to me to buy a country? My God, Leviathan, he's a genius. Why didn't I think to buy a country? Yes, I'm sure all the major villains in the DC universe now are so impressed with Leviathan, and even Luthor is probably saying, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? I could have bought a country and been real badass. It's like, really? Unbelievable. But hey, guys, tell me what you think of Leviathan Dawn. Tell me what you think of this Leviathan character to begin with. I think he's a joke. But he's got potential. He does have potential. He can be a Doctor Doom. Unfortunately, he's not written interesting like Doctor Doom is. We don't even have an explanation why Mark Starr has that ridiculous looking face of his. What's that? All this stuff that would be part of an origin where we get to know a character. None of this, we're not told any of this. We're supposed to just be expected to stick along for the ride while Bendis desperately tries to make stuff up as he goes along, destroying DC continuity while he does it, hoping beyond hope that 5G will cushion the blow and erase all the nonsense and the mistakes that he's made. But that's not going to happen. Didio is fired. Didio, the protector of Bendis, is gone. I suspect that soon Leviathan is going to be a joke in reality as well as in fiction. But we shall see. We live in interesting times. Guys, tell me what you think of Leviathan in general. Tell me what you think of Leviathan Dawn. Hit the subscribe button and follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. And until next time, Comic Boom out.